Okay, almost there. Good morning, welcome everyone. So, welcome to the 6th IMEC Education Conference. Last year's conference had 3 sessions, 3 different panels, 8 or 9 speakers, and was a full day event from 10 to 5. This year, the situation in the education sector is so grim that we had originally planned only 2 sessions, and the event was supposed to run from 10 to 3. About 2 weeks before the event, a few more speakers dropped out for various reasons. Some of them unfortunately lost their jobs or funding or for various reasons. A few tables that were originally booked also got cancelled because of the last minute funding decisions, and the entire event had to be reworked in a shorter format. I was determined to continue regardless of what happens around us. So here we are in a shorter format with only one panel and sadly no lunch. But it was important to keep the dialogue going, because everyone knows the situation the whole sector is in. So that's why I think the theme for today's event is even more relevant. Challenges for today and opportunities for tomorrow. So before I come to the theme and talk about the session today, let me start with a brief introduction about IMEC, because quite a few new people today as well. So we run a privately run business organization called Impact Media and Events Corporation, or IMEC in short, hosting corporate events, political events, annual gala events where we recognize very senior business leaders, political leaders. So far, from 6 Canadian provinces and 8 countries, people have participated at IMEC events, including former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, cabinet ministers from Ontario, Yukon, Alberta, and high net worth individuals worth 300, 500 million and more. We also host an annual golf tournament, an annual education conference like this being our 6th event, business leaders roundtables, political leaders roundtables, and fireside chats and more. The event prior to this was on October 16th at Mississauga Convention Centre. We had 2 Ontario cabinet ministers in a similar setup, similar format, same stage setup. One of the ministers was Minister Nolan Quinn, Ontario's Minister for Education, Colleges and Universities. So this is a continuation of that event. Obviously, we are putting together about 8 similar events like this for next year, on top of the gala, the golf, and the other events. So there's always something going on every 4 or 5 weeks. Recently, on popular demand, we have opened up the IMEC business platform for annual memberships. And I'm very happy to say that within 5 months of the launch, we are at now 52 members. It's $1,000 a year membership that gives you one ticket or one invitation to about 10 plus events that we host in a year. And if you miss any event, you can also send someone else in your place. So the goal is to take it up to about 300 members next year, to make this the largest privately run business organization. The goal is to basically benefit from each other's network, each other's contacts, knowledge and expertise. Please join IMEC and let us grow together. Happy to discuss this after the event or by email or phone call later on. A few months ago, we have also launched Food Bank for All, a not-for-profit food bank, keeping in mind the unfortunate but growing need of food banks in GTA and beyond. 1 million Ontarians have visited a food bank between March and April last year to this year, in 12 months. So far, in the last 2 months, we have donated food to a Brampton-based food bank, to a shelter home, and 2 days from now, this Friday, we'll be doing another food drive at Sheridan College in Brampton. So that's what the appeal was. We are giving about 50 to 60 bags, carry bags, with a lot of grocery items. And so we have now three different locations rather. A food bank that we donate to, a shelter home, now Sheridan College, and also the fourth one will be on the road, homeless people. So this will now be our 4 distribution points where we'll be donating food. Everyone is welcome to participate in this effort with either donating food or contributing money, whatever that is, $10, $25 a month, or a lump sum, or whatever that is. So that being said, let me bring you back to the topic for today. Everyone can hear me properly, right? If not, I can start from the beginning again. So, as I mentioned earlier, and as all of you are aware, education sector in Ontario today is facing unprecedented challenges. Some of it are also self-inflicted wounds, like overdependence on international students, not providing courses that are job ready, over-reliance on government funding, lack of a more creative vision. I can go on and on and on. Everybody knew that this was not sustainable, but money was coming, so nobody cared. And they thought this is like, a never-ending ATM that they can keep tapping into. So now here we are. As per reports, Canada will issue up to 408,000 study permits in 2026, down from 485,000 issued in 2024. That will result in a net loss of about $3 billion for Ontario colleges, which have already cut more than 600 programs, maybe even more, way more, and over 8,000 jobs as of today. New student visas are expected to be only 155,000 next year, compared to 305,000 last year, which is 50%. With more programs getting cut, more campuses getting closed, more and more layoffs, the current scene looks very bleak, depressing, and frustrating for both the students as well as the educational institutions. What lies ahead is only a guessing game for all of us. The government seemed to be asleep at the wheel for the last few years, and now, in an attempt to show that they are doing something, seems to be making a bad situation much worse. The medicine seems to be worse than the disease itself. And I have been shouting from the rooftop for the last 3 conferences. Last year also, in front of a lot of colleges, universities, I said the same thing to them. Even at the fireside chat also, people who were there in October will remember that I told the same thing to Minister Queen as well. So I said to stop blaming the students. I mean, it's not their fault. You guys are telling them, oh, you come to Canada, you are coming straight to heaven. And once they land here, they realize there are no jobs for them, no part-time jobs even. 10, 12, 15 students live in a basement, and things are much tougher than they thought back home. So everyone is responsible, and everyone's responsibility it is to correct the situation, to do a course correction. So what can we do in these circumstances? We can talk to the stakeholders. That I believe is the most important thing, to keep the dialogue going, to keep the communication open, not just give up that, oh, now it's all messed up, it's all screwed up, let's all just throw the hat and walk out. But that's not an option. People that run this sector, that's what we need to talk to, that face the brunt of it, and that's where events like this really matter. It's not about how many people, number of people, it's the kind of people, kind of stakeholders, that we try to bring together. Although it's not as big as the previous few conferences, I still made sure that the dialogue continues. Hopefully next year we may get back to a bigger conference again. Till then, looking forward to engaging conversations today and better days ahead. So thank you. That's it for the opening remarks. And the format for today is that we have got 4 speakers for today. So I will introduce the speakers one by one. I'll read out the introduction for the first speaker, which is Dr. Asima Vezina. She will then come on stage, and I believe you are speaking, no presentation. Then you can go take your seat back, and then I'll bring the second speaker, read out their introduction, followed by their presentation. There are 3 other PowerPoint presentations, which we'll see. So the second speaker will do the presentation, again take your seat back. Then the third speaker, the fourth speaker, and then all the 4 will come back to sit on stage together. And then we will do the Q&A. Actually, one by one, and then one question for all of you together. And then we have about 20 minutes of post-event networking, right? So that's about it. So let us start with our first speaker for the day, Dr. Asima Vezina. Dr. Asima Vezina is the President and Vice Chancellor for International Business University, or IBU. She has over 30 years of experience in education, government, and public leadership, and currently is the President and Vice Chancellor of International Business University, IBU, Ontario's first independent, not-for-profit university. Before joining IBU, Dr. Vezina served as President of Algoma University for 7 years. Her work has earned her national recognition, including the Athena International Women in Leadership Award, Queen's Jubilee Recognition 2023, and the City of Brampton Business Person of the Year Award 2024 for her outstanding contributions to education and community development. A pretty long list of recognitions, but I had to cut it down in the essence of time. Her work embodies IMEC's theme today, embracing the challenges of today to create meaningful opportunities for tomorrow. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Asima Vezina.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. It's always a privilege to join colleagues, partners, and leaders who care deeply about the future of higher education in Ontario, across Canada, and of course around the world. Thank you, Vipul, for the introduction, and also for bringing us all together for really important dialogue. And I also just want to acknowledge the collection for the food bank. I think in today's world, generosity is so important, and I also encourage everybody to think about donating at least one bag to the effort. Not long ago, I participated in a provincial event hosted by KPMG, and they brought higher education leaders from across the province together to grapple with the most pressing questions facing our sector. The gathering was designed not as a traditional conference, but as a hands-on design thinking workshop at an environment intentionally built to build the ideas and honest reflection of our sector. The guiding principle for the event was clear: rethink the future, don't tweak the past. Following the session, I was then invited to speak at KPMG's National Higher Education Forum to share reflections on those same questions we're all confronting today. What are the real challenges facing higher education in Canada? Where are the opportunities within today's uncertainty? And how must universities and colleges reinvent themselves, not superficially, fundamentally, to remain relevant and sustainable? The insights from these national conversations, combined with emerging data from HECO, StatsCan, QS, and leading analysts, shape the remarks that I'm going to share with you today. Because one thing is clear, our sector is facing real challenge, but we also possess the creativity and the capacity to transform them into opportunities. There is an urgency for change. Across Canada, higher education is experiencing the most significant disruption it has had or faced in decades. We know that 1 in 4 Canadian alumni are indicating that they regret their post-secondary experience. 31% are feeling financially worse off after completing their education. Several Ontario institutions have seen international enrollment fall by 60 to 70%, intensifying financial pressure. And Ontario continues to rank last in Canada for per-student funding, a warning that economists like Alec Usher have repeatedly underscored. From HECO, we also know that nearly 1 in 4 Ontario students who start a program does not graduate even after 8 years. These non-completion rates are highest among students from underrepresented groups, including first-generation and low-income earners. Even for those who do graduate, outcomes vary widely. Graduate employment rates remain relatively strong for postgraduates, but half of graduates feel their first job is not meeting their expectations. Many are citing lower than expected salaries, limited career relevance, and instability in early career opportunities. Layer onto this the rise of student anxiety, concerns about affordability, and the growing number of learners that are questioning the value proposition of higher education, and we see a message emerging clearly. The traditional minded alone is no longer enough. So while academic quality is a necessity, it is no longer sufficient. A theme that resonated across the work we were doing over the past couple of months with KPMG is that academic quality, while it's essential, is no longer the primary differentiator. Students are now choosing institutions based on flexibility and convenience, personalized and relevant learning, industry-aligned curriculum, experiential and work-integrated opportunities, digital-first support systems, seamless service experience. Globally, QS data shows that learners are increasingly drawn to institutions that integrate industry, technology, and flexible learning models. Countries like Australia, Singapore, and the UK are aggressively expanding micro-credentials, lifelong learning accounts, and competency-based pathways. And that familiar cautionary tale came up at the forum. BlackBerry did not fail because the product was bad. It failed because it stopped listening to what its users valued. We cannot afford to do the same. Our provocative question at the workshop was, what if degrees didn't exist? This sparked the idea of a learning playlist, personalized, modular, stackable learning experiences, co-designed with employers, updated through a person's career. This aligns with global innovation in Education 5.0, where learning is continuous, it's adaptive, it's embedded in technology-rich environments. Research in the classroom of the future highlights AI-embedded tutoring and academic support, lots of issues around that. adaptive, personalized learning platforms, virtual and augmented reality for immersive education, digital credentials, and blockchain verification, competency-based learning and assessment, hybrid, flexible delivery that adapts to students' lives. Importantly, technology enhances, not replaces, the human element of education. It allows faculty to focus more on mentorship, deeper learning, and critical thinking. Imagine a university where students assemble their education like a Spotify playlist, guided by advisors, informed by employers, supported by AI, and continuously refreshed as industry evolves. This is not science fiction, folks. Everybody nods their head, right? But do we really embrace the change that needs to come? Leading systems will. So we're reimagining revenue and cost models, another theme that we need to be talking about, and an urgent issue for institutions specifically like Ontario. Leaders are exploring creative revenue cost models inspired by other industries. At the national level, we talked about things like the Airbnb model. Who would have thought that you could have hotel rooms without any hotel infrastructure? Who would have thought, we talked about the Disney model and licensing university intellectual property and digital learning materials. We looked at other external models to see if we could learn from them. We talked about Costco, lifetime alumni memberships that include continuing education and career services. Build your own. We talked about transformative industries like Southwest Airlines, and we learned about their focus and their success around simplifying and standardizing systems to reduce the complexity for their customers. We looked at IKEA, empowering students to assemble aspects of their learning journey, increasing personalization while reducing the administrative overhead. These ideas aren't about corporatizing our universities, but they're about ensuring we can continue to invest in student success, academic excellence, and innovation, even in a volatile funding environment. So we're learning lessons, having led both at a public university and now situated at an independent university. I've seen the strengths and the constraints of each system. There's pros and cons, you can challenge this if you want, but generally speaking, public institutions excel at collaboration, they excel at mission-driven work, they excel in community partnerships, but change requires broad consensus amongst government, senates, faculty unions, community partners. In private institutions around the world, they can excel in agility and speed. Curriculum updates can happen in weeks, in months, not years. Programs can be co-designed with employers quickly, and new offerings can be launched even quicker. The lesson is that neither model is complete on its own. Public institutions can learn from the entrepreneurial mindsets of the private sector. Private sector can learn from the public sector's commitment to access, community impact, and long-term sustainability. Both must support their teams through the change fatigue that is now part of our new reality. The core of our mission remains constant. The student experience must be our North Star. Students expect personalized, seamless, engaging experiences. Yet many institutions still operate with outdated curriculum, outdated systems, fragmented processes that frustrate rather than support. Technology can change this. AI tutors, early warning analytics, mobile-first student portals, adaptive learning platforms can improve our outcomes. But these tools require governance structures that are agile, future-focused, and willing to drive cultural change. In today's environment, agility is a form of accountability. Rigid systems cannot serve a generation whose needs, expectations, and lives look profoundly different from students just a decade ago. There is power in collaboration. Across institutions, through joint programs, shared services, shared digital platforms, and transfer pathways with industry, through co-op, advisory boards, research partnerships, IP commercialization, with government through coordinated advocacy, data sharing, and strategic innovation funds, with students and faculty through co-creation of curriculum, services, and new models. As one participant at the workshop put it, great artists steal and great educators share. And I would add, great institutions collaborate. So as we think about 2026 and beyond, as we look to the future, I see 5 priorities for leaders in higher education. Put student impact at the center of every decision we make. Embrace innovation and agility as daily practices, not slogans. Build financial resiliency through a diversified revenue and disciplined cost structure. Leverage technology strategically to enhance teaching, learning, and student support. Invest in people, invest in culture, invest in thoughtful change management. When we think and envision the future, yes, our sector is facing uncertainty, funding pressures, demographic challenges, shifting expectations, and rapid technology change. But I remain deeply optimistic because I have seen firsthand the creativity, the courage, and the commitment that educators, staff, students, and partners bring to this work. I have seen what is possible when we lean in to collaboration and innovation. And I have seen the extraordinary potential of the learners we serve. We can build a future where no student regrets their education, where learning is flexible, personalized, and lifelong, where institutions make a net positive contribution to society, and Canadian universities and colleges remain vital, relevant, and globally respected. The future of higher education is not something that will simply happen to us. It is something we will design together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vazina. That was quite informative, actually, those insights. So, time for our second speaker for the day, Christine Brooks Cappadocia. She is the Assistant Vice President, Continuing Studies at York University. With a career spanning education, health, social services, and the arts, she played a pivotal role in launching the York University School of Continuing Studies in 2015 and has since helped grow it into one of North America's most celebrated institutions for lifelong learning. She is also the host of a successfully ambiguous podcast where she explores how professionals can thrive amid uncertainty and change. Christine is a sought-after speaker on topics such as workforce transformation, inclusive education, and leadership. Christine holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts from York University, Master of Management, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship from Queen's University, and numerous continuing studies as certificates from internationally respected universities. So please join me in welcoming Christine Brooks Cappadocia.
Thank you, Vipal. It's a pleasure to be here. Oh, and thanks for the clicker. I'm going to take this off. A little bit short, and I want to ramble a little bit. So thank you very much for having me here, and it's a pleasure to be at an IMEC event, and certainly to speak to you all today. Because VPAL's done such a great job of bridging industry and education in many events, I'm just curious, how many of you, by a show of hands, are from the education sector? Okay, most of the room, okay. And about a little bit from the business sector. So I'd argue those two things are not separate, but we often think about them as separate things. And so because I speak to both, I'm going to change my presentation a little bit for you to focus on the education sector, but with some of the things we learn from the business sector. So one of the things that's been consistent in my career is looking at how different sectors fit together and the needs of different people fit together to define success in new combinations, right? So it's bringing in systems thinking, entrepreneurship, innovation, and when you look at if you do follow the podcast, one of the common themes is helping people find that thing that really feels like success to them, that is valued by the rest of the world so that they can do more of it, right? And do it on their own terms. So finding success in your own way. So, but I want to bring you to what my school does, I think in a way that no one else can do and can only be done at York University. So I've run continuing studies units in other places. York attracted me to come and build the school along with my colleagues because what we wanted to do could only be done. There's something very unique about it. And that is really think about how we bridge the connection between what a research, comprehensive research university and what employers need. What is the bridge? How do we build those things together? Because they're often thought of very separately. And that connection is the students and the talent, right? It's the learners. We always, and it's a pleasure to listen to Dr. Vesna talk about student first and the way our sector is changing. But it's the commonality. Our students go into industry, they become employers. At the School of Continuing Studies at York University, our students are a little bit different. This is not progressing. Oh, wait a minute, it is, okay. So, we're part of York University, a university that's only 60 years old and was founded for a really neat reason. So 60 years ago, a group of people associated with U of T, major university based on research, thought, what would happen if we made universities more accessible? One of the founding principles of our university is how do we serve adult learners? And that's become an important part of the university and remained a pillar for 60 years. So the School of Continuing Studies builds on that. Right? As we think about our new medical school was just announced, we've got a new campus in Markham as well. We're thinking about how not only do we serve the 18-year-old, who are a very important part of our university, but how do we serve that learner who may not have otherwise had access to the university, first-generation learners. We needed to be very responsible to our community. That's our DNA. And so as we're facing unprecedented change, and because so many of you are in the sector facing unprecedented change, I want you to think about what is your institution's DNA? What is that thing that it might be geography, right? It might be that we're based in Brampton or that we're based in Oakville or wherever you're based. It might, if that's what makes your university or your college or your institution unique, that's something very important to hold on to. It might be something else, right? We all exist for a different reason. Hold on to that core because that's what's going to keep you centered through this change, right? For York, it's that we help with access. We bridge the connection between a comprehensive leading research institution and we make that accessible for all. We design our systems and we think about that. So 10 years ago, the now president, then provost, thought, what would happen if we went into continuing studies and helped bring that to what if we launched a School of Continuing Studies? Great question. We now know the results of it, and I'm going backwards, sorry. It's to build a sector that would be, or a school that would be focused on the future of work. So our mission as a school is to help Canadians thrive in the changing economy. We define Canadians very loosely. It's people who want to be Canadians, it's people who are Canadians, right? It's people in this economy. We're very focused on Canada's economy, not Toronto's, Canada's. That's who we exist to serve. So we do that in many traditional ways. We bring, our learners who are School of Continuing Studies. They're not 18-year-olds. They tend to be between 25 and 35. They often come to us with careers, and they're mid-career professionals, right? They're working in some form. They're often very advanced. So if you look at our students, they'll often come to us. They almost always have a bachelor's degree. They usually have a master's degree. And in the case of our international students, and I know those students are, we're one of the largest providers of international education in the continuing education space in Canada. Again, these are people with really well-established careers. I met a student yesterday who was the chief design officer for a Pan-African financial institution. And I'd like to say he was an exceptional student, but that is a norm when I meet my students. They come to us, our digital marketing students, they've come to us as things like regional SEO manager for Ogle. There's some big companies, big brands, and these are really well-established people who want to come to Canada, study. Some want to stay, some don't. They're here for a good quality education, and that's what we provide them. So, well, the sector's changed a lot. It hasn't changed who we are at our core, which is an entire institution focused on helping the Canadians thrive in the changing economy, whether they're new Canadians, old, existing Canadians. That's what we do. So as the international student numbers have changed, we've had to think about, part of thriving in the economy is having an economy to thrive in, right? Employers were relying on large groups of international students, which many of us brought to Canada, to be the workforce, to fill the skills gaps. Canada's skills gaps have not gone away just because we've decided we're not bringing in as many international students. Employers have to start plugging these holes. We still need, AI is changing the world of work really quickly. When we started the school, we knew that millennials were changing jobs every 5 years. The traditional approach to continuing education would mean that it would take you roughly 5 to 6 years to finish a part-time certificate. As much flexibility as possible. Students tend to take a course to a course and a half term. They tend to take the summers off. And it would take the average working Canadian 3 to 5 years to finish, say, a certificate in HR. Well, the world is changing much more quickly than that. 10% of my job has changed in the last year due to just the incorporation of AI. And the new generation is actually changing jobs every year. So we've got skills changing all around us. We've got a workforce that is changing employers quite quickly. And we have, the talent pool has changed now, right? Canada relied, coming out of the pandemic, on bringing in international students to serve a lot of these labor market gaps. Well, that's a lot harder to do now. So how do we help our employers thrive? And so we went back to our thinking about what our DNA was and thought, well, we need to do a better job with helping our employers with the talent they have. How do they reskill, retrain, and retain their talent, right? And if we do that well, that will also help our international students continue to get good jobs, because the employers who are often their students, their fellow students in the same cohort, will know just how talented our students are, right? They get to know each other really well. So we've looked at changing the way we talk to employers. Moving this thing. Right. So we're built for the current future of work. Really, there we go. Sorry, I'm going in the wrong direction. There we are. So we have built our certificates with employers. We deliver them with employers. We ideate with employers. So our topics that we teach are really different. We've got about 30, we teach in 30 different areas. Flexible programs because, again, our students are mid-career or they're international students, so most of our student programs can be done while you're maintaining a full-time job, right? Because, I don't know about you, I can't afford to put my career on hold for a year or 4 years while I go back and get another degree. It's just not accessible for people. But we've also focused on making sure there's fast, measurable impact. So you can finish most of our programs, we can finish all of our programs in less than 2 years, most in 6 months, some in 11 weeks, right? Finishing all of the programs. So if you start a program and it's a 6-month program, the way we've built the program, both you and your employer will know that you'll be done in 6 months. You'll have the skills you need. There's a level of predictability that comes from that because of what our DNA says is that we have to help Canadians thrive. You're not thriving if you're taking years and years and years to finish a certificate. And we all know as educators that if a student takes a term off, they tend not to come back, right? The chances are that it is much harder to get back and get started. So we've built our programs with working professionals, for working professionals, and for their employers. So their employers actually help us design what the program should be like. So it's often it's always a mixture of soft skills and functional skills. So I don't just teach data analytics or instructors or cybersecurity. We teach cybersecurity with the set of soft skills that are required along with it. So always communication, always problem solving, always ethics. Increasingly data analytics is being seen as a soft skill. And in every single program, there's an ability to apply that through work-integrated learning, and AI is embraced as part of the learning culture. It's not enough to teach, you will never see my school do a certificate in AI just on its own, unless it's programming for AI systems. And that's because we see AI as a soft skill. We see it as a core competency that needs to be incorporated. So every single program has AI in it. Our digital marketing program, students learn how to produce the content they need more quickly and to do the analytics they need more quickly using AI in context, right? Because what a digital marketer does with AI looks really different than what a cybersecurity professional does with AI. So we need a different approach, and then our employers have told us that that's how they need things applied. No one should ever let me use a clicker. I have to know. So it's led to some really different programs. Again, drawing on our DNA. So my advice for everybody is to draw on what makes you unique. So if you are the university in Sudbury and that's what makes you unique is that you're in Sudbury or the college in Sudbury, focus on what the Sudbury employers need. Probably something to do with the nickel mine there. So our employers, we serve a Canadian audience, and so we look at what pan-Canadian employers need, what skill sets are required across the country. Our employers tell us, and we also do something a little differently in that we have regional delivery models. So our cybersecurity program, our UX program, there are a few others, are available in Calgary, which is the second biggest technology market in the country. They're not a big enough technology market as far as employees go for the universities there to sustain and maintain programming in technology, right? We're changing because skill sets are changing so quickly, we're redeveloping curriculum with every single offering. That's really expensive, And not everyone can afford to do that. In Toronto, where the market is for technology jobs is 10 times higher, we can afford to do that. Our colleagues in Calgary probably can't, but we work with them to deliver the curriculum. And why do we do that? Because we are focused on helping Canadians and the Canadian economy thrive. So if you are a pan-Canadian employer, you want to make sure that your cybersecurity team in Calgary or Vancouver knows the same things as your cybersecurity team in Toronto or Ottawa. So we've minimized travel for everybody a little bit by offering Canadian partners, and we've got some consistency. But I want, as you guys are all thinking about, what do I do? The world is changing. Think about what makes you unique and find ways to thrive in that. This probably won't work for anyone else, but it works for us in terms of these programs. Could you sustain? We have 6 different cybersecurity programs. Could most places sustain 6? Certainly in some of the smaller markets, no, it's not possible. We know our employers need that, so we find different ways to bring it to the employers in those markets. Right? And we work and we collaborate, which is an important theme in education. So. Has it worked for us? Yeah. This is a snapshot from our annual report last year. We are growing. Our students are coming back, so they're having a really good experience. What makes me most proud is when students not only come back, they hire out of the classroom, they come back as instructors, because all of our instructors are in industry, so you need 10 years experience to teach for us. So we're seeing the instructors from the first cohorts come back. We're seeing them thrive in their careers. Our very first cohort of cybersecurity, when we first developed the cybersecurity program, it's very important to me that every program has a advisory panel that's more diverse than the industry it serves. So when we started cybersecurity back 9 years ago, we could find 2 Canadian women who were at senior levels and in the cybersecurity field. And they were both busy. So we couldn't find any women to be on the Program Advisory Council. And we truly did a national search with a recruiter, there were 2. We know that to have an industry be a new group come in and feel comfortable in an industry and thrive, you need about 33%. At that time, the Canadian industry had about 10% of cybersecurity people were female, and they were very much at the lower levels. We now have, out of that first cohort, there were 2 women who the Program Advisory Council members just wrapped their arms around and supported all the way through. One is a WXN top 40 woman under 40 for focused on technology. The other is an internationally best-selling author who focuses on cybersecurity work, and she's teaching in another university. They're both our WXN winner now teaches for us. But we're seeing them come back and thrive. We're seeing them hire. So this, for me, is this full circle moment, and that's where lifelong learning will really thrive, because we're not doing our first degree and done anymore. The world just doesn't work like that. So having people feel connected to your institution and come back and thrive, that to me is a sign of success. It's focusing on our outcomes. And whatever your North Star is, achieving that over and over again will be what keeps you solid as the economy changes, as the market changes. Just finishing up, my call to you is to really focus on what you do best. Don't worry about what's changing in the world. Worry about what you do and what you have to offer as an institution to that changing world. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. So let us move on to our third speaker for the day, Paula Govia. She is an experienced academic leader who has held senior leadership roles in several leading public colleges in Ontario, including as Vice President Academic at Cambrian College in northeastern Ontario, and most recently at Conestoga College in Kitchener, where she was also Vice President International. As a collaborative leader, she has mentored many leaders and empowered numerous teams to support student success and engagement. Given her lived experience as an immigrant to Canada and as a first-generation learner, she has been a strong community advocate and has volunteered as a mentor to internationally trained professionals and served on community boards like the United Way of Greater Sudbury and Waterloo region. So please join me in welcoming Paula. This will be followed by the last speaker and the presentation, and that will be followed by the Q&A. So in the essence of time, we can keep the presentations up to about 8 to 9 minutes.
Right, so let's adjust that, and can everybody hear me in the back? Thank you so much, and thank you so much VPOL, thank you IMEC for hosting the conference and allowing me to be part of it today. It's my pleasure to talk about the challenges that post-secondary is facing, and also the innovations that have been brought forward and that are really charting the path forward. And I think with my colleagues having been brought together today as a panel, really my comments are going to be focused on the public college system in Ontario. So if you can bear that in mind, it'll help you to understand a little bit more of what it is that I'm going to be sharing with you today. Not just you, Christine. Let me turn it the other way, see if that works. Okay, we got something. Okay, so in terms of setting the context for the few minutes that I'm going to spend with you today, I'm really going to focus in on an agenda that looks at the financial challenges that the public post-secondary system is facing. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about stagnant provincial funding, domestic tuition freezes that have been in place, declining international enrollment, and as well, aging infrastructure and increasing technological and operational costs. And the way forward, as my colleagues have shared, to address these challenges, really focus on reimagining programming and reimagining the way in which we deliver those programs. Really looking at decreasing operational costs by leveraging AI in order to really think about what it is that we are offering and producing work-ready graduates. Really want us to think all about global engagement beyond recruitment. We cannot just be a receiving country. And I also want us to think very much, as you've heard my colleagues say, about the importance of industry partnerships. So let me start first by talking a little bit more about stagnant funding. And really, as Ma has shared, Ontario has the lowest funding for post-secondary education. In fact, operating grants and tuition are approximately $8,300 below the national average. It's remained flat for nearly 2 decades, which means we are not keeping pace with inflationary increases. Operational costs continue to escalate, and yet what we're seeing is that in the public college system, they are operating with $1.6 billion less than what they need to operate with. And so those pressures continue to mount, and we are expected to maintain the high-quality Canadian education that we are celebrated for internationally, still facing these economic pressures. And I will at least say, as my colleague has shared, the ministry has put a foot forward to engage in consultations around the funding model. And the system is very excited about what the future holds with those conversations happening. But today, we are still facing economic pressures. Let's see if it goes. Maybe not. No, it went too fast. Okay. Stagnant funding is coupled with a domestic tuition freeze. What some of you may not know is that in 2019-2020, domestic tuition, due to a provincial policy change, was not just frozen, it it was mandated that it be decreased by 10%. And so, as a result, in over 7 years, what you're seeing is a decline of $1.5 billion in domestic tuition revenue to the public college system. Those are staggering numbers because, as I've said, expenses continue to increase. And what you've all heard in the news, and as Vipul shared in his opening remarks, deficits are being projected at many public post-secondary institutions. And so, years later, I'm trying to move it forward. Let's try, there we go. After years of facing challenges that are financial challenges, we know that the systems turn, I might have to do this. The systems turn towards international efforts and recruiting international students to close the gap financially. And Canada was very successful because our educational system is of such high quality. But we know that federal policy changes and their quick implementation have been devastating. And as Vipul shared, targets now are far below what we've experienced over the last few years. And in fact, the target for arrivals, and it's really important to understand this, for 2026 is 155,000 students. That will take into account individuals from kindergarten to PhD, and that is across the country. And Ontario's allocation for study permits is 70,074. You just have to absorb that for a moment because we have to do things differently. So it represents a loss of a major revenue stream for the public system and for the private system as well. And we are projecting in the public colleges that revenue will decline to under $4 billion across the entire province. So to mitigate these financial risks, what have we seen? Vipul shared it. Programs are being suspended. Campuses are being closed, and we are seeing unprecedented job losses in public education. At the same time, we are also seeing that we need to continue to invest in infrastructure, we need to continue to invest in technology, we continue to have to invest in the way in which we deliver quality education. I'm trying to get it to change. There we go. Because that's the way that we train our graduates for tomorrow. But how do you do that when revenue is so drastically cut? So we have increased deferred maintenance costs. Outdated facilities mean you can't train the workforce for tomorrow's needs. Capital pressures continue to mount. And without adequate funding, what is going to happen to those graduates when they are out seeking jobs? Because we need to continue to modernize facilities and invest in that learning experience in order to feed the innovation economy. And so it's not all doom and gloom, because we do have ways forward. And so what are the ways forward? As my colleague has shared, we need to reimagine the programming that we offer. And I hope that you have all seen in media announcements of applied masters coming in the public college system. That marriage of theory and application, hands-on learning and practical skills that are going to drive businesses forward. Micro-credentials and badges, those short-term opportunities that are stackable, that really align with industry needs. We need to attract the adults, the working adult who's not going to give up their full-time day job to come back and continue to invest in themselves. It's about lifelong learning. And as we think about the economic climate that we're all operating in, we need to be prepared to support upskilling and reskilling in all its facets, because that's how we continue to boost employability. And it represents a diverse revenue stream for the post-secondary system, a very sustainable revenue stream. Let's try one more time. It's also about the way we deliver programs. I always say we need to have what you want, when you want it, and how you want it. That's the recipe for success in attracting students. And so it's an expansion of hybrid and online learning. It's coupled with traditional face-to-face, but you have to make it accessible. My colleague Christine used that word significantly. And for success in recruitment, it means that you can go well beyond your catchment area. It means that you can reach remote and working learners well across the country and well across the globe. It also means you don't need to continue to invest in physical spaces. So physical expansion and buildings are necessary to the same extent. And I love to use this phrase. It means we have to take education to a 12-month cycle. We have to be ready in September, January, and in May with non-traditional starts, because we have to be ready when our learners are ready. We also need to reimagine, one more. Okay, we also need to reimagine the way in which we support learners. Again, my colleagues have shared some of these words with you. This is leveraging AI in ways that help people to be successful. It is very, very challenging now to recruit students. The competition is fierce because we're not just competing with what is happening in the GTA, we are competing with every province and every country. And so what we need to do is support success with adaptive learning. It really is about meeting the student where they are and ensuring they have a personal experience that leads to their success. And they define their success. We don't. It could be modular, or it could be that full 4-year experience. But it means they need personalized support. It means when they want it and when they need it. It's not the clinical model that we've used to define the way in which we support students in the past. If someone needs to speak to a counselor at 2 o'clock in the morning, I need to make sure counseling services are available. And this is where AI and personalized tools are able to really help. It's not about ChatGPT and generative AI any longer. It's about agentic AI, where we have an agent on our side, guiding us and helping us to continue to be successful. It's about leveraging AI in our classrooms and with our faculty, as Asma said. Help to reduce their workloads, enable them to provide a more individualized experience, from designing learning resources, quizzes, assessments, handouts, a variety of tools to help students continue to learn. And as organizations, it's embracing AI to help decrease operational costs as well. You've already heard it be mentioned in marketing. But what happens if our marketing department's reusing it? What happens if a registrar's office is imagining how chatbots and different tools that can put a podcast out to students to explain the complex process makes it accessible? All of these things are things that we are being asked to engage in, that we have been engaging in, and that we need to continue to inspire. And this is the one that I really think we need to stress. We need to take global learning well beyond recruitment. You've heard me say it already. We were so successful as a receiving country, as a receiving province, as receiving institutions. We need to celebrate Canadian education and take it back out into the world. And that means transnational education opportunities. It means internationalization in its broadest of senses. It means a virtual exchange, collaborative online learning. It means academic partnerships, dual degrees, global research and collaboration, study abroad opportunities. So many students have never left this province, and they want to be guided through short-term experiences where they can come to learn new cultures, develop a global mindset, and global competencies that employers want. And that is key to helping us rebuild the reputation of this country in higher education. And so last, you heard industry mentioned many, many times already this morning, and I need to mention it as well, because we need to really focus in on increased partnerships with industry. In the public college system, we are mandated to have program advisory committees for every program that we offer. Industry is at the table informing the decisions that you're making, the equipment that you're procuring, the curriculum that you're offering. We need to seek additional funding from our industry partners to help ensure that that equipment is accessible and in our classrooms and that students are learning on that equipment. But sometimes it's not in our classrooms. We need to inspire living labs where our students are going to learn in industry. And we are setting learning spaces and time for them to learn there. And we know as the enrollment continues to change, some institutions may have space, that they can do novel things with. Space sharing opportunities bring industry into your community of learners, and that's something that we need to really focus on. We've been doing this so successfully already with stewarding philanthropic pursuits with industry partners. Industry really needs to be a partner at the table to continue to do that. And so to conclude, we know that there are challenges that we are facing in the post-secondary realm. They're serious challenges because they are cutting at the core of what it is that we need to have to be able to do what we're doing, because they are attacking the financial sustainability of the system. But the biggest innovations come from challenge, and all you have to do is turn it on its head. We can't do it on our own because we need to have those in government be part of bringing forward policy reforms that focus in on sustainability, focus in on excellence and innovation. But another key player in this collaboration are all the individuals around the room here today, because we all have to collaborate for the sustainability of a truly world-class education system that right now needs all of us to be championing. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Paula. That was a very in-depth, very informative presentation. Thank you for that. So before I introduce our last speaker for the day, let me just be my own salesman again. Anyone that wishes to join IMEC who is not a member, we do about 8 to 10 such events a year, or contribute anything to the food bank. You have the forms right in front of you, inside the magazine. Please feel free, there are pens also available. So feel free, and then you can join us at many events like this. So now we'll have our fourth and the final speaker for the day. That will be followed by Q&A. First I will ask them questions one by one, and then we can take some audience questions too. So looks like the event may have to extend for a few more minutes after 12. So our next speaker is Mr. Vishal Manocha. He is the president for A1 Global College. Vishal is an accomplished educational executive and entrepreneur and the owner and president of A1 Global College of Health, Business and Technology in Mississauga, Ontario. Vishal has a Master's of Science in Management and Marketing from the University of Central England, Birmingham, UK, and over 20 years of experience dedicated to student recruitment and strategic educational development. In just 3 years, he has successfully overseen the opening of 4 campus locations and expanded his portfolio by acquiring Institute of Machine Tool and Technology, ensuring that they also serve the crucial skilled trades sector. So while most colleges and institutions are struggling to sustain, to survive, here is a different kind of person who is growing very rapidly. So please welcome our final speaker of the day, Mr. Vishal Manocha.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Vipul, for this opportunity and giving a chance to Career College to explain their challenges, their opportunities we are facing. But before we start with that, let me put across a statement for us for career colleges. For too long, career colleges have been treated as the easy scapegoat wherever challenges arise in the education sector. But it's important to set the record straight. Career colleges are not the problem. In fact, they are an essential pillar of our community and of Canada's workforce. Every year, we help thousands of learners gain practical, job-ready skills. We support industries that rely on trained talent. We create pathways for newcomers. working adults and career challengers who need flexible, focused education. Without career colleges, many sectors would even face deeper labor shortages and slower economic growth. It's time to recognize the value we bring and the impact we make, not just in statistics, but in real people's life and in the strength of Canadian labor market. So before I talk about the challenges and opportunity, I want to start with something bigger. Canada is standing at a turning point in education, a moment where the old models are training and the new ones are still taking shapes. Employers are asking for skills they can't find. Students are searching for pathways that actually lead to careers. And communities are depending on training systems that can keep up with economic change. This isn't a small shift. This is a structural transformation. And for those of us in career-focused education, this movement is not a threat. It's an opening, a change to lead. About me, and I've been into this industry for 2 decades. I've been immersed in exact intersection where students, industry, regulations, and opportunity meets. I've worked across the full spectrum of career college education, building programs, leading operations, working with the regulators, supporting students from the moment they require to the moment they step into their first job. My lens has always been simple. Education must translate into employment, otherwise we are just issuing papers. Across health, trade, and technology, I've helped shape programs that meet labor market needs, not theoretical ones, and the result shown in graduate outcomes and employers' partnership. That's the frame I bring to today's conversation. So let me introduce you 2 institutions that reflect this philosophy. A1 Global College. For over 30 years, A1 has delivered programs in health, business, and technology, producing graduates who actually move into long-term careers. Thousands of students have passed through our doors, and our focus has always been the same: practical skills, strong support, and employment outcomes. IMTT, Institute of Machine Tool and Technology. IMTT has spent 18 years specializing in CNC and advanced manufacturing training. While everyone talks about skilled trade shortages, we prepare the people who actually fix the problem. Ontario is projected to face a shortage of 200,000 skilled trade people by 2030, and IMTT is directly feeding the gap. These institutions are not trying to be everything to everyone. They are intentionally built to meet labor market demand, and that is exactly why they work. The reality of the Canadian education landscape. Let's acknowledge the truth clearly. The system designed for the economy of the past cannot supply the economy of the future. Here's what's happening. Labor demand is outpacing training capacity. Healthcare, trade, and technology are all short on talent, but not by hundreds, but by tens of thousands. Programs are aging faster than they are updated. Technology cycles moves in months, academic cycles moves in years. Public institutions are vulnerable. Too much reliance on international students means their stability depends on visa policies and geopolitics. Students are questioning return on investment. Tuition has risen over 20% in 10 years. Families and students want proof that education leads to employment. This environment doesn't call for small adjustments, it calls for leadership. But what is the opportunity ahead? The private career sector has strategic advantage. Skill shortages are creating unprecedented demand. 50,000 plus healthcare workers needed. 200,000 plus trades workers needed. Tech and industrial role growing 12 to 15% in 5 years. These are projections, they are vacancies waiting to be filled. We can update programs quickly. We can align with the employers faster. We can launch new pathways within months, not years. Domestic recruitment is becoming a strength. While others face risk, we face stability. Domestic focused institutions have predictable enrollments, consistent demand, and room to grow responsibly. We can lead the workforce transformation. This is our lane. We are the closest to industry needs, closest to job pathways, and closest to the communities that depend on skilled workers. The opportunity ahead is not incremental, it is generational. So what is our three-stage strategy? Here is how we are positioning ourselves to lead this transformation. Stage 1 is build stability through domestic focus. Reduce dependency on international fluctuations and anchor enrollment in local labor needs. Stage 2, modernize program with precision. In health, trade, and technology, we align curriculum directly with employer expectations. Trades and technical program already show 85% plus employment within 6 months because training is matched to the real job requirement. Stage 3, deliver outcomes that matters. Not just graduates, job-ready graduates. Not just programs, career pathways. Support, placement, employer partnership, the full ecosystem. This is how we move from operating a school to building a workforce engine. Let me leave you with this. Canada does not just need more education, it needs the right kind of education. Responsive, employer-driven, focused, adaptable, and anchored in outcomes. We have talked about the challenges in the system, the opportunities that are emerging, and a clear strategy for meeting them. But the real message is this: career-focused education is no longer an alternative. It is the backbone of Canada's workforce future. An institution that acts with clarity, speed, and purpose will not just survive the shift, they will define it. Thank you. I look forward to the conversation ahead.
Okay, so that will now bring us to the Q&A session. I will bring one speaker at a time and 2 questions for each speaker. So first I would like to call upon again Dr. Hasima Vazina to the stage. Take your seat. Anywhere you like. Okay, so that's your microphone. 2 questions, as I mentioned, for each speaker. In your previous stint at Algoma University and now at International Business University, you have worked with thousands of students, both domestic and international. In your opinion, yes, we have heard a lot of those challenges in the other presentations, but in your opinion, what are some of the challenges that domestic and international students face, as they will obviously have some very different challenges, what domestic students face and what international students face, and what opportunities do you see for both domestic and international students in the current environment?
Okay, well, that's a bit of a complex question. Honestly, I've never seen a period in my life, and I speak with my parents as well, they've not seen the level of anxiety amongst our youth, our young people, and the uncertainty of the future, the geopolitics that are happening, the wars across globally that are underway. I think our young people, all young people, and I've just got back from India and speaking with students there as well. And I mean, whether you're in Latin America, Africa, Canada, and when I talk Africa, I'm talking predominantly our students are coming from Nigeria, Tanzania, students that are coming from India. It all seems to be the same thing, right? People are worried about their future. And we're seeing more and more families struggling economically. The costs have gone up, the family incomes have come down, the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. And so, I mean, to answer your question, are domestic and international students feeling differently? I don't think they are. I do think when international students are coming to Canada, they have a lot of hope. And once they get here, I mean, it's very, very difficult for international students. They're paying high tuitions. They're trying to settle into a new country, new culture. What I'm hearing from students, international students, is that they are struggling to find that first entry job because the employers are simply not, they're looking for them to have another experience before they hire them. There's a bit of a, I'm going to say it is a bit of a bias out there. So I think it's incumbent upon us when we're bringing any student into the university to be very transparent about the program they're in and the likeliness and the outcome of postgraduate employment, and then to be really thinking about what skills, what opportunities, what experiential learning guarantees can we give students. And I can tell you, in the last session we were at, the minister is really pushing for experiential learning, and we're saying, but we can't find enough quality, high quality placements for our students right now. So we're even thinking about how do we do placements within the university using virtual technology? Can we do virtual placements? Is that enough? But I think these are some of the things that I'm thinking about.
Just because of the echo that we had. So the second question for you is something that I believe Paula touched upon in her presentation. One of the issues that I have heard from students is a lack of proper support system. Whether it's emotional support, mental health support, anyone struggling with their studies, getting additional study-related help or guidance, etc. As students face bigger challenges now, both financial, lack of jobs, this can be very critical for many, the support system. So what's your take on that?
Resiliency, right? So when we take students into our universities now, we're not just delivering a program, right? We're building a community, we're building a family. Our students need to feel connected. And I'm speaking about domestic and international. There is a real disconnect right now. And I do assume that some of it is COVID related, where people forgot how to speak to each other. We are spending a lot of time on our phones. Our classrooms are places where students can learn again those soft skills, right? Which employers are saying, that's what we want you to focus on. We need students that can communicate. We need students that can think creatively. And I have to tell you, when I see students working on real problems in teams, done well, in classrooms and in extracurricular, there is something magical that's happening. And if we can connect them to an employer and a real problem that an employer is working on, these are some of the best experiences in their life. So I think we have to really think about when students are coming to us, what is their full experience? How are we supporting, we never thought of this 10 years ago, but how are we supporting the resiliency that students really need today? Yes, we need to do all of those other things around student support, but I think they learn it in the actual work that they're doing, right? We can sit and listen to all of the woes, but if we don't have ways to connect them and to help help build that resiliency, then I don't think we're actually doing our job.
Okay, so that's it for you. You can stay here or go back to your seat as you wish. So then I will have to bring you back at the end. Okay, so let us bring in our second speaker, Christine Brooks Cappadocia. Okay, so at a time when most people are struggling to make ends meet, and many students with an expensive university degree unable to find work in their field, as Vishal mentioned, sometimes it just becomes a piece of paper on a wall that doesn't take you anywhere. Doesn't matter if it costs you $40,000, $60,000 or $1 million. So those degrees, unable to find work in their field or anywhere for that matter. Do you think colleges that offer more hands-on, more job-ready courses will outsmart and outpace universities going forward? What can universities do to remain in the race?
You do ask very tough questions.
I have a reputation for that.
I think it has less to do with the divide between colleges and universities. I think that's a bit of an artificial divide. And I think working integrated learning is important, but we need to think about, just as Dr. Vesma was talking about, we need to think about the entire ecosystem. So how do we help? There's a stat coming out of the UK last year at Future Talent Council where they found that they studied how people find jobs, and they identified that who you know is as important, if not more important, than what you know in your job search. Right? We've all heard about the unpublished job market, and I think no matter what kind of institution you're in, we have to help our students, particularly our students who are newcomers or students who have just survived the pandemic, and particularly that group that did high school online in their basements, develop the social skills and the social capital that will help them thrive. Yes, the work integrated learning is critical. The applied skills are critical, but it's that connection between not only having that applied skill or doing the work or what you study being theoretical. The soft skills are very important and they can go to the humanities and the arts, but being able to translate that for an employer in a way that an employer understands that you are the right person for the job, right? So I think about some of the work we do with our students. Our students come from, again, they're very well skilled and they have great careers in some of the countries they've come from, and then they come to Canada to start again. And what is the best practice in their home country in terms of what a resume looks like can actually be a barrier in Canada, right? Where you put in some of the resumes, they have their picture, they have the social insurance, they have how many kids they have, all on the resume. A Canadian employer will sometimes bristle when you get one of those resumes because there's a lot of information we're not even supposed to ask about. So how do we help people develop that, not only the connections, but the way to communicate the value they bring in a way that can be heard?
Okay, in your presentation, you have mentioned that 44% of core skills will shift by 2027. What kind of core skills will not be needed anymore? And what new core skills will students of today need?
So resiliency is the biggest core skill they will need, the ability to adapt problems, to work alongside AI. What's going away is, am I going? Okay. What's going away is really hard to predict right now, right? Who thought lawyers would be facing changes in their roles, right? Now we don't need paralegals in the same way that we needed them a year ago. So that's really hard to predict what genetic AI will help with, but being able to adapt and work alongside technology, being able to learn and continuously relearn, the ability to critically think through problems and solutions that are offered will be more important than ever. As far as what's going away, I think that's part of why it's so important to me that my students figure out what they offer that's of value to them that they can offer others, and keep that as their North Star, because we don't know what's going to change. We just need to be ready to change.
Okay. All right, that is a lot of uncertainty, I do understand, and with AI and everything, honestly, nobody knows what tomorrow has in store for us. So whatever, we can safely predict, we can only work on those, because day after tomorrow, nobody knows.
And
Thank you.
just resilience, thanks.
In terms of asking those tough questions, actually, at the ministerial roundtable, which I hosted on October 16 at Mississauga Convention Center, both the cabinet ministers told me that I was asking them too many difficult questions. I said, that's my job. And even at the gala where I had Stephen Harper, the former Prime Minister, I did a 45-minute chat with him on stage. Couple of times, he was so stumped, he was totally speechless, sitting there just staring at me. And I even told the audience, I said, I deserve a big round of applause. I got Stephen Harper speechless. So I've got a bit of a reputation. So thank you. So that's now time for the third speaker. Paula, please come on stage. The questions are nothing personal, it's all questions that a lot of people have in their minds, and someone has got to ask those questions. Okay. If Ontario colleges are struggling due to insufficient government funding, as you mentioned in your presentation, or because of a 10% tuition freeze, the solution for the last few years was bringing in more international students. Now that pipeline is also choked. So what now? The job losses at colleges, program cuts, campus closures. Do you see all these getting back on track anytime soon? And if yes, how?
Is it working? So do I see them getting back on track? In all honesty, Vipul, I don't think they ever got off track in terms of focusing in on bringing programs forward with community needs in mind and addressing very critical skills gap. All the students that have been educated across the public college system for the last 5 decades, because the colleges are still relatively young now, our university, as Christine shared. It's always been premised on what does your community need, how do we develop a program, and how do we bring forward that graduate in order to be able to meet that community need. They were established by Bill Davis to be vocationally relevant, and they've never lost sight of that. Absolutely, with the influx and the huge success of international recruitment, it could be that there were far too many individuals in certain areas that they are now not necessarily employed in the way that they wanted to be, or potentially underemployed. We know youth unemployment rates are higher than they've ever been, and our youth are struggling. And so off track, not necessarily, I disagree with you. They have always been vocationally relevant and will continue to be vocationally relevant, and will continue to work with industry in order to bring forward programs that are sustainable, that are necessary, and that will educate for the future.
Yeah, when I say back on track, that means financially viable again and healthy again. Anyway, so it's easy to talk about the challenges students face and the support available or not available to them. What about the educators themselves and the support staff who also may need some support themselves? Are there any programs or assistance of any kind available to teachers, professors, support staff losing their jobs? some of whom may be at a certain age, may not be open to or capable of reskilling or upskilling, and may just be looking at a black hole now. We know their challenges for today, but what kind of opportunities, if any, will be there for them?
Okay, so in the public college system, I think, again, for the audience to understand, we live in a collective system, meaning we have collective bargaining and we have collective agreements that apply across all 24 public institutions. And so in working with staff, we have to, of course, follow the tenets that are outlined very clearly in that collective agreement, including the benefits that are available to staff, to faculty. And having started as faculty myself, I can say that we are very, very privileged to be in the public system with a very robust benefit package that enables us to be able to explore professional development opportunities, to be able to seek supports from practitioners, para-practitioners, in order to focus in on health and well-being. But that's not the only thing that public institutions do. They also have very robust employee relations and labor relations departments that also then support the ongoing health, well-being, professional development, and learning of their staff and of their faculty. When you face employment challenges, as we are seeing, not just in public education, but across the entire Canadian spectrum, we know that individuals are provided with supports as they are exploring other opportunities, but no matter what support you put in front of someone, you really have to take a step back yourself. You have to look at exploring what it is that you feel is the next step for you, and where you can align your talents and your experiences to the opportunities that you are able to network through, that you're able to leverage, and that you're able to explore. So just as our youth are facing challenges, for those who potentially are facing any challenge personally, they're engaging in the same activities to find meaningful opportunities for themselves and leveraging the networks that they're creating and expanding. So I think those things that we ask our students to engage in, we ourselves need to engage in them when we are faced with challenges. And for colleagues out there, connecting to those who you know to be your best guide on the side.
Thank you for that. So Vishal Roy, back on stage. 2 questions for you. And then I have got the same questions for all 4 of you, so then you will all have to come back. As a private career college, working right?
Check.
As a private career college with multiple campuses and no dependence on international students, in your experience, which courses today provide faster and better job opportunities, programs you would advise students to pursue, courses that will remain in demand not just for today but for years to come? This also applies to the teachers as well. As Paula just mentioned, it will impact their own career prospects too.
So from the prospect of career colleges, I think there have been a lot of talk in the town how A1 has grown from 1 campus to 4 campuses, 2 programs to 12 programs or 15 programs. So it's all about focus we have, and we are directly targeting all the skill trades, health sector, and the tech sector. We all know that is the future. AI is not going to replace a lot of things, but it's going to change a lot of things. So I think the way the career colleges adapt to the system, the way we act, and it's not long 2 to 3 years of board meetings to discuss or implement anything. It's a vision, thought process. We know what's coming in the next few years. We start working on it right away, and that's the reason we have grown from 1 campus to 4 campuses, because the vision was clear on the day one that we're going to give the best to the students. The program they need is health, we all know that. A1 Global has graduated more than 2,000 plus PSWs in the last 1.5 to 2 years, directly going to the job market. We have organized successfully 3 to 4 job fairs just targeting our healthcare sector students. They have been employed by a lot of long-term care and retirement homes. So the programs we are developing are ready for the market, ready for the students to go and grab the jobs. And the way we move is our strength. That is the strength we have as a career colleges. That's why I said in the presentation, yes, we have been always targeted as a scapegoat of all that's happening in the education sector, but we play a very, very important role. The way we develop our program, the way we aggressively go and open the campuses, it tells us how important we are for the sector.
Okay, so in terms of challenges, I believe recently the government was either considering or has probably already tightened funding for some courses at private colleges too. You can tell us more on that obviously. Also, as per your presentation, there is intensifying competition from public institutions. With that in mind, what do you see as challenges and then again as opportunities for private career colleges going forward?
Yeah, they have been in the budget 2025. Unfortunately, there's news coming up that maybe the career colleges may not be for the part of the federal funding, which is a part of the OSAP. So A1 and IMPT both are OSAP approved. Definitely, that may impact of what we are doing. But again, as I mentioned in my previous answer to the last question, that the way we adapt the situation is our strength. We know if that is coming, trust me, my plan B is always getting ready. I know that's coming in the next year by August. My plan or the education, or I think all the career colleges would have already started planning. That's what I said. The way we get to the situation and try to work around it is our strength. Definitely it will have challenges for us because students, if the funding has been cut, but that's happening across the sector. Public has already faced that for many years. But I think they have found their ways and career colleges will find their own ways. But I also find that government is very supportive in other means. We've already started looking at the other funding options available from the government. They will not be directly the OSAP funding or federal funding, but there are a lot of like SDA funds is one of it. And there are we have met a lot of education service providers who have got a lot of funding from the government. They are looking for colleges like us, the program we have. They want to spend that funding, but they don't have the institutions who have those programs. So that again, bringing back to our strength. That's why we are developing those programs. We meet those service providers every day to find out what sort of funding they have, what sort of programs government funding. So again, we adapted quickly, we developed those programs, and in the market in the next 6 to 8 months. Another challenge we face is from the MCU. Is the biggest challenge we face is the system. It's almost broken, to be honest. I'm sorry I'm saying that in the platform, but it is broken. Even for us, we can turn around the things in 3 to 6 months. But I'll give you an example. We applied for an AI program in March 2024. We got the approval in April 2025. So AI has transformed from that. My program is already absolute. I can't even run that program anymore. That sort of challenges we face, but that's part of the system. Again, we have learned a lot, adapt to the system, and I think we are facing those challenges very well. Thank you.
Sure. So we have heard about AI a lot today and going forward almost on a daily basis. So, not a serious point, but one of the biggest proponents of AI has been my wife. He keeps telling me we need artificial intelligence at home because I don't have any natural intelligence of my own. But that's jokes apart. So now one common question for all four, if you can all come back on stage please. Same question, different perspectives hopefully. And then we can take some audience questions as well. So as I mentioned, it will be the same question and you can all answer. The current picture in Ontario's education sector is one of pessimism, stress and deep anxiety. Do you see any silver lining in these dark clouds at all?
Yeah, I mean, I'm naturally an optimistic person, right? And I just have to walk our campus every day if I am feeling that pessimism, because our students are not, right? Our students are still very excited about their future. Yes, they have anxiety about, will I have a job? What is happening in the world today? But when I go into classrooms, when I'm in some of the events, that just uplifts me. I get really excited and sometimes very emotional because we change lives every single day. And we are not a widget manufacturer, right? We are actually helping young people change the course of their lives. So, yeah, I think I'll just leave it there. I think we have to be very careful in our messaging that we are not broken, and I think some of us talked about it today, that our core functions have not really changed. We should be fearful of the disruptors that are coming towards higher education, because there are a lot. One just has to look at some of the company stories I shared earlier. There will be disruptors coming. So it's about how are we preparing for that? And what are we thinking about? Because we do need to have these conversations within our faculties, across our communities, to protect the very core of higher education in the province and in the country. Having said that, I think as long as we continue to innovate and sort of challenge ourselves and open these spaces up to think, to create, and to dare to be different, then I think we're going to be fine.
Paula?
I'll add a little bit as well. The word collaborate came to mind as you were summarizing your last few remarks, and it's really about that opportunity for people to come together. And I think about bringing students to the table and asking them what their future holds. Christine, you mentioned that when you were sharing your presentation. Bringing teams together and letting them bring forward the innovations. It's not about one person being able to solve the problems of all. It's about leveraging all of the talents of really, really high-functioning teams, because they will have ideas. It's about bringing faculty together to also ask, what does the future need to look like, and help us build it together. So it is not all doom and gloom, and I actually, again, really echo, Asma, what you said. When you walk down hallways and you see students and you see the joy of learning right in front of you, in classrooms, when they're engaging with technology, when they're heading out onto placements and co-ops, it's infectious. When you meet them at orientation or open house, when you see them cross the stage, we've had the privilege of changing lives and being part of an educational journey. And we need to continue to imagine that the journey needs to change, and it needs to bring other stops along its way to make it meaningful. So I'm very excited about what the future holds, because as I said, no challenge is worth going through unless you can come out of it with new ideas and think different.
Michelle?
Honestly, I think for us, if I look at the last 2 years and since the changes has been made, they're all positive for us. I think we got a lot of opportunities. Career colleges are playing much more important role again. Now, even the PR citizens, the people around Canada, they've started valuing, I think, education with the private sector, because again, the value we bring in, the programs we adapt to, and the situation we take care of. I think from our perspective, I can see all positive has happened in the last 2 years, and the way we again, the A1 or IMTT is progressing to the next 3-4 campuses coming up very soon in different cities in Ontario, I see only opportunities there. Thank you.
So innovation comes in opportunity, disruption. We're facing a lot of disruption and a lot of change, and while that may be uncomfortable, that's when innovation comes, is when you're uncomfortable. We live in, from a research institution, new research changes things and you have to adapt. So I see huge, huge potential here for those of us who are willing to be resilient, rethink problems, but also always staying connected to what it is you do that is of value is your story.
So yeah, I mean, as we all know, one person's challenge is often another person's opportunity, right? And if there are no challenges, there will be no innovation, nobody will think differently, we'll all be very complacent, nobody will have any reason to wake up in the morning. So in a way, challenges are good, that's where opportunities come from, usually. It's up to us, up to the institutions also, to make the most of it, to be ready for tomorrow. So from my side now, the questioning is done. Anyone wants to ask any question, please introduce yourself and then also mention who the question is for, and then we can take a few questions if everybody's okay.
I guess it's good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, thank you, Vipulji, for organizing the conference, and thanks to all the speakers for the insightful discussion. Shout out to Anand, who is the president of RETA. I'm his guest, and I'm from RBC. Quick question. There was a study done, and about 85% of the employers have indicated that AI skills will be essential for everybody in the next 5 years. Right? And we all spoke about how, there's a lack of focus on what are the skills for the future, right? And we can all assume that AI acumen would be a baseline requirement for the future. But beyond the AI acumen, what do you guys think are the top 3 human skills that, you would need to succeed in an AI-driven economy? Maybe a question to all of you. Who wants to answer? Thank you.
Mike, so I'll start. Critical thinking, the ability to continuously learn, and ethics will be huge.
So coming back to again, my perspective will be always from the career college perspective, to be honest. So I know we've been talking about AI, everybody's talking about AI. Elon Musk is talking about within 15, 20 years, maybe work will become optional, right? But what will we all do? But I think we'll still have, we all have to adapt, we have to develop those skills. And from the program perspective, I think, again, I said in the present, I think health, skills and trade, they will never be replaced. They will be AI integrated to the education we are providing, the system we are creating, but I think that's never going to replace, AI is not going to replace those things. So I think these 3 sectors from the education perspective is going to play an important role.
So we've been talking a lot to industry partners, and what they've been sharing with us is they need students that can think beyond a textbook. So they want students that can actually get into the real world quickly and adapt, that they can be creative at the table and bring new solutions very quickly, that they think creatively and innovatively. They are adaptive to the situations that are changing. I mean, if we think of the AI in particular, what we're doing today even with AI is not going to be anything close to what we're doing a year from now or even 5 years from now. So can you think entrepreneurially? What employers are telling us is we want the entrepreneurs in our system. We want people who can adapt, think, problem solve, are quick on their feet, and are actually street smart. And I know people don't like that term in university, but you have to be able to think beyond what you learned in the classroom. You've got to be able to apply that in new and creative ways.
I think it's a great question. When you look at the way in which programs are approved in the public system, we have to align to 13 essential employability skills that really have not been touched in almost 20 years, but they go from critical thinking to communications to numerate, literate, personal time management. Those are all hallmarks of what one ensures an individual can have through a post-secondary experience. But we really need to focus in on that critical thinking as has been shared, that creative thinking that has been shared, that teamwork. And teamwork is not just group work. Teamwork is about engaging a variety of diverse team members in a variety of different ways, because we need to have that global mindset, because teams are being defined in ways that we didn't even imagine.
Anyone else?
Hello. Oh, okay. This is Christina Halliday from International Business University, and I also want to thank the panel and the organizers of this event. What I've appreciated about this event, many things, the insights of the leaders, but also the diversity of the panel, the sectors that they come from. I was really happy to hear from our colleague from the career colleges, and it really resonates with me just with respect to what Dr. Vizina said about how, because today we're talking about the issues facing post-secondary education, tertiary education, and the comment that Dr. Vizina made about how we're in this together and we're being collaborative and we have to think through solutions together. One of the things that it's not a question for anybody in particular, but if somebody wanted to comment on it, so we are talking about ways in which to make tertiary education, post-secondary education more valuable to the communities in which we live, and virtual, communities that are from elsewhere, but also elsewhere through remote learning. And for a long time, I've been really interested in micro-credentials and skill-based learning, short duration learning. And somebody here reflected on the potential of looking at our alumni as continuous learners and positioning the institution as a resource for alumni as they move through their entire career. And and that's something that I've written about and thought about for a long time. The other thing is with respect to learners that are not coming to us for necessarily traditional learning experiences, but are curious professionally. And I think about this too because I have a 20-year-old and a 26-year-old, both of whom have tried public post-secondary education and then stepped back and said, I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure about this investment. I'm not sure if it's going to get me to my goal. So I wonder about, in general, we're talking about post-secondary education as a context for discovering pathways towards meaningful work and career. And especially on the side of alumni, I'm just wondering if anybody in the panel has a good example of an institution nationally or internationally that's doing a really good job of presenting itself to the community as a site for learning, both at the beginning of the journey, investigating where they want to go, but also once they're well into careers and for upskilling and reskilling. So I was wondering if anybody had any good examples of institutions doing that very well.
I'm going to pass it actually to Christine because given her role at York University, this is exactly what she does.
And so at York University, we do focus on the 18-year-olds who are coming out of high school. Sorry, I'm beeping now. So we do focus on those 18-year-olds, but continuing studies, which is the school I run, is all about reinventing yourself as an adult, adding new skills, exploring new things. There's a safety. Often people are learning to do their current job better, or upskill in place, or to try something entirely new. We had in the cybersecurity program, we had a watchmaker who is now heading one of the cybersecurity units at one of the big 5 banks. You can reinvent yourself. I think, as much as I'm very proud of the work we've done at York, this is true of many, many institutions that have lifelong learning and continuing studies units. It's what we do. We need to, in Canada, stop, in the world of AI and this kind of change, stop thinking about it as a tertiary education as a one and done. You should be coming back. I did my master's very late in my career. We should be thinking about continually learning new things, whether that's casual learning, whether that's formal learning through an institution. This is just how our world is evolving and our skill sets need to evolve and change in AI.
Vipal, might I add one small little thing to what Christine said? I also think that we need to really, really understand that there's a significant amount of pressure on young people to figure it out. What do you want to be when you grow up? I never woke up one morning and said I wanted to be a college administrator. But instead, you need to embrace opportunities. You need to love learning, and through learning, figure out what you like. And guess what? Don't do something you don't. Don't learn something that you're not connected to, that you aren't passionate about. And let the learning drive you to those opportunities and make those skills transferable. Someone on the panel said, learn to talk about what you know and what you can do with what you know, because you can do an awful lot. And if I had $1 for every student I said to them when I was working with them as coordinator, as faculty, do what you love. You'll wake up in the morning every day with a smile on your face. Don't become a nurse because there's a job. Don't become a nurse if you don't like blood. Become a nurse because you want to save lives. And we need to get that back, because the jobs come, not always in a straight way. I just think that's an important message, because the learning never ends.
There's something I wanted to add here. We'll take 1 or 2 questions after that, and then we'll close the event for today. See, one of the things which I have often noticed is the youngsters especially. Right from maybe 50 years, 100 years ago until today. When someone is at that age, as you mentioned, and not sure what to do, which stream to take, what career path to choose, many of them are told, either be a jack of all, because you don't know what skill you will need tomorrow. That's one advice given, be a jack of all, know a little bit of everything. The other advice is to become a master of one. Then you become a specialist, an expert, and you will always be in demand. So many times people get so confused. They end up becoming neither a jack of all nor a master of one. So it's still the same issue. I'm sure most of us, we have kids, and that's what we keep telling them, and they come back to us and say, just shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. So that's something that we all need to learn as well, to tell our kids. Don't be a jack of all, don't be a master of one, just do whatever you like to do, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to love what you do, not just something that pays you money, because anything will pay you money. But you have to love what you do. That will only be the incentive to wake up in the morning and go to work. So anyone else has a question? Maybe 1 or 2, last 2 questions. That's it, Joshi?
Yeah, hi.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so then it will be the last one for the day.
And I really appreciate the distinguished panel. Very insightful and thought-provoking thoughts, I should say, comments. My name is CK. And we have a firm called Fernal Tax and Advisory. We have about 10 offices across the province. Our association with education was purely accidental. When we were reviewing or preparing the tax returns for a number of different clients, we realized that many of them had the opportunity to be more financially stable by going into higher education. And we then started off another division that supports various candidates or prospects to get them through the OSAP application program. Many of them are not aware of it's surprising, but many of them are not aware of the support that the government provides. All what people think about is the OSAP loan, but they do not think about the OSAP grant. And that's what we help them, match them to the appropriate colleges and programs. But I'm hearing that the funding for OSAP is now going to dry out. But in that situation, first, when insights into when that's going to happen, and 2 is what would the impact of that be on these kind of candidates, particularly in the smaller towns, right? We have an office in North Bay and Wasaga Beach and that kind of area where they may not have direct access to information as easily as we have here. So it would definitely help if any one of you or all of you would share your insights into first, when is the funding going to be going to dry up? How much of it is going to get be taken away? And in that scenario, what are the options available for these kind of candidates who would want to get back to school and they don't have any options now? Okay, thank you.
So in the interest of time, we'll have one speaker address it. Who?
As I mentioned again in the presentation, yes, to answer your first question, when is it drawing out? I hope it doesn't, but let's see what's coming up. It's been announced for 26-27 session. It starts in August, so that's when we're expecting it. I've been trying to read a lot after the budget has been, this information came in the budget. There's no still concrete data or the information available how they're going to implement that. Few of the information doesn't matches or what is written in the budget, so let's wait and see. I think by January, February we'll have a better answer. To answer your second question, again, I think as an institution, I said we are already started looking for Plan B, so I've already started researching about what other fundings are available if this drives down. But again, before even answering that, just to again answer, you also have 4 parts. Provincial funding, like a grant, provincial loan, then federal or grants and federal loans. So only what we've heard is federal grant is going away. So that's 3 parts are still there. So that's still a good news that at least we will have permanent sources of those funding. But looking at other options will be like STF funds that helps education providers like us to even in the infrastructure, even developing the new program. So as an institution, we already started targeting them. And that funds also has a part where we can train students. So government pays for it. So that is one funding available. And through the lot of education providers we are meeting, not the education but the service provider we are meeting today, they have youth funding available for somebody from 18 to 29. So that's another opportunity we are seeing for the next year. Then there are funding, especially coming for trade, for women in trade. There's a lot of service providers who have just funding for women in trade. So that's another opportunity we have found out in the last 2, in fact in the last 3 weeks since this has been announced. As I said, my plan B, mind has started working what's next. How are we going to get there? Because we've set up those 4 campuses, we plan to expand further, but how are we going to sustain? So I think if one road is blocking, I already see another path where we have to head forward. So I think we should be good. Students need to be just guided, and we may need to be more aware of where those fundings are available. But I think still the government is supportive and a lot of funding will still be available. Thank you.
So last question of the day, please identify yourself and who the question is for. The microphone.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shoaib Muzammel, and I'm from Vrada. Paula, you brought up a very good point when you mentioned that the learning never ends and to really pursue something that you're passionate about. When I was younger, I felt like math was my Achilles heel. And because of that, when I wanted to choose a discipline at university, I wanted to veer away from math. But I was later told that math was not really my Achilles heel. I was just not really taught it with a lot of passion, which I do believe in. What is your advice to students in a similar shoe as I am, where they want to veer away from certain disciplines at school because of a fear for math or anything else? Like, how would you encourage them to just go for it regardless of what they feel like they're good at or not good at?
Don't close the door prematurely. We know that for some, there's certain affinity to certain subject areas, and for others, there's not. We know that the way in which subjects are taught varies significantly. We know that the level of preparedness for certain individuals to take on that teaching differs. We need to stop thinking that learning is only centered on one person standing at the front of a room delivering material. And that doesn't work for everyone. We know that learners have very different learning styles, and that learning needs to continue outside of the traditional classroom. So for someone who potentially is not in love with math, maybe struggling with the way in which material is being presented, what are the other opportunities to engage with the subject matter in different ways? Is it peer-to-peer supports? Is it peer tutoring? Is it technology? Is it digital learning that provides them with those additional resources? Is it AI, where you can easily say, develop 10 questions for me that focus on, I don't know, algebraic equations with X, Y, and Z, and the answers, and you now start investing in your own self with those kinds of tools at your fingertips that don't necessarily require any additional dollars and resources. I always say, don't close the door, because when that door is closed, it's not that you can't ever walk back through it, but you're going to have to find a different way to do that. We know many adults are in Pathways programs because they're trying to pick up critical prerequisites as they're imagining how they take that next step in health sciences or in IT programs, in engineering, in a variety of different places where they closed the door early on and now they have to reopen it. But it's never too late.
Thank you, Bola. I know maths is so hard. 4 out of 3 students have a problem with it. So thank you, everyone. Big round of applause again for our fellow students, for yourselves. Thank you, everybody, for coming. So we'll take a quick group photo here on stage, and then feel free to hang around for a few more minutes to meet with the other people in the hall. And hopefully, I'll see you at the next IMEC event. Thank you, everybody. Sorry, a big round of applause again for our volunteers today. Prithvi Pandya, Darshi Jani, Christine. My daughter Darshi is also a student at yours. Right here.